Today we're doing domain and range of continuous graphs. Remember that the domain is talking about the x-axis and the range is talking about the y-axis. So when you're looking at the domain, you're scanning your pencil or your finger across the page from left to right. So you're looking at what is happening on the left side of the graph, what is happening on the right side of the graph. How far to the left can it go? How far to the right can it go? For the range, you're scanning your pencil from the bottom to the top. I like to do bottom to top when writing the interval notation. It just makes it easier to make sure you get it right. And we're going to identify the y values when you're looking at the graph. So you're talking about up and down on the graph. So how far down does it go? How far up does it go? For our purposes, we're going to be using interval notation. Interval notation is just accepted in all the higher maths, and so that's going to be something that's more appropriate for you to go ahead and learn that now as we're learning how to do this. A couple of things to remember. We're going to use parentheses to show numbers that are not included. So things like infinity, negative infinity, and anything with an open circle that is not included is going to be shown with parentheses. And then brackets show numbers that are included. So as we do some of these, that will be clear when we use a parenthesis and when we use a bracket. And they can mix and match. You can have some parentheses, some brackets, one of each. It's whatever. So on one like number 1, we are talking about how far left is this going to go and how far right is this going to go. Now, yes, this is going up, but it's also going out. It's going out to the left. It's going out to the right. And because those have arrows on them, that means it's going to continue to go to the left towards negative infinity, and it's going to continue to go to the right towards positive infinity. Now, the range, you have to look up the graph. So what happens down here? Where does the graph start? Where does the graph stop on the y-axis? And so for this problem, we actually have a starting point. It is 0, -2. We didn't go left or right. We just went down the y-axis to -2 for that starting point. So the bottom of the graph is at -2, and that's actually a point on the graph that we can touch because it's an actual point. But then for the top of the graph continues to go up with these arrows that are going out away from that starting point. So this graph is going from -2 to infinity on the range. And infinity is something that you can't touch. You can't reach infinity. You can only approach infinity or negative infinity. So we can't use brackets on infinity because you can't actually touch it. For the circle, we've got a left point and a right point. We also have a bottom point and a top point. So a circle or any kind of closed shape that doesn't have arrows coming off of it, these are going to be easy to identify the domain and range because you're just literally, what is the left side of that circle? What is the right side of that circle? What is the bottom of that circle? What is the top of that circle? So I'm actually going to do the domain here in green. So we have that domain, or the left side point there is -3, 0. That's what this point here is. And then the right side point is +3, 0. And then the bottom of the circle is going to be 0, -3, and the top of the circle is going to be 0, positive 3. And so when we do domain, we're looking at those x values for that left side and that right side. So this circle goes from negative 3 to positive 3 on the x-axis. And so you can see that that's where those numbers came from. They literally came from the x value of those coordinates. And then on the range, we're going from the bottom, which we go down to negative 3, to the top, which we go up to 3, and we can touch both of those. Those are literally on that circle. And so you can see that we got those numbers from the y values of those 2 points. So that's a little bit of an easier way to think about the range if you're thinking about the x and the y values of those different points. One like number 3, it has the arrows on it again, so it's going to go left forever, it's going to go right forever. So that domain is simply negative infinity to positive infinity. The range is the same because those are going left and right, but they're also going up and down. So this is going to continue to go up towards infinity. This side's going to continue to go down towards negative infinity. So the domain and the range are the same on that one. On the next one, we've got a parabola. So parabolas always have a domain of negative infinity to positive infinity, because you think about that this is going down, but it's also going left, and it's going to keep going left forever. And this is going down, but it's also going right, and it's going to keep going right forever. The range on this one, though, is a little bit different than the line because it actually has a top. So it is coming, what it's literally doing is it's coming from negative infinity and going up till it gets to this point, and then it's turning around and coming back down to negative infinity. So negative infinity is going to be the bottom of our range, but the top of our range is going to be at 5 because this point up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up on the y-axis. So we do have the point 0, 5 there as our vertex, as our turnaround point, and so that 5 gives us the top of our range. Number 5 is a square turned on its side, kind of like a diamond. Also very similar to the circle in that it has a distinct left point, a distinct right point, a distinct bottom, and a distinct top. So we can put down the coordinates for these points and help us determine the domain and range. So this left point is negative 1, 0. And the right point is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. That bottom point is 2, negative 3. And the top point is 2, positive 3. So we have all of these different points to help us identify the domain and the range. So for our domain, we're going to go from that leftmost point to the rightmost point. And for the range, we're going to go from the bottom to the top. And remember, we're using the x values to make the domain and the y values to make the range. Right, then for this last one, this one is similar to number 3 because it has, if you start kind of here in the middle, you're going to go to the left, but you're also going down. And you're going to go to the right, but you're also going up. So that means that the domain and the range are negative infinity to positive infinity, because you're not going to stop anywhere. You're going to keep going left forever, you're going to keep going right forever, you're going to keep going down forever, you're going to keep going up forever. I know that it has these turnaround points inside, but because it turns around and then turns back around, it doesn't matter that there are turnaround points because it ends up still going out to the right instead of turning around and coming back down. All right, so that's page 1. Page 2 has some that are a little bit trickier. So we've got this cosine curve. Now, this cosine curve, what we need to understand about these arrows right here is it doesn't mean it just goes up and keeps going up. What it means is it's going to continue this cosine curve in the same pattern that we currently have. So it's going to continue to turn and go up and down in this same pattern forever. So kind of like a sound wave. So this is going to keep going left forever in that same pattern, and it's going to keep going right forever in that same pattern. So that means that because it's going to go left and right forever, it's negative infinity to positive infinity. Now the range is different because there are obviously places where it turns around and has a bottom and places where it turns around and has a top. So you can see this bottom is happening at -3. And you can see this top is happening at +2. Oh, those should be brackets. Because those do touch those. I didn't mess that up on this side, did I? Yes, I did. All number 5, those should all be brackets as well. So sorry about that. Because you're actually touching all those points. So these should be brackets, brackets. Sorry about that. Oh shoot, this should also be a bracket. Boy, I am just not paying attention. Okay, I think the rest of them were right. Yeah, I got them right at the top and then I just stopped. Okay, so then on number 8, we have a sideways parabola, and because it's going to the side instead of going up or down, that means that the domain and range are going to be flipped from what normal would be. So this literally has a point right here that is the left-hand point. That point is -1, 0. And so -1 is going to be the left side of our domain. However, it's going to keep going right forever out these legs. They are clearly going to the right. So that means that it's going to leave -1 and go towards infinity. As far as the range, not only is this leg going right, but it's also going down forever. And not only is this leg going right, but it's also going up forever. So that means that the range is going to be negative infinity to positive infinity because we're going to keep going up and down forever. Number 9 is a vertical line. Vertical lines are special, and we will talk about vertical lines some more this year. But today we're just talking about its domain and range. So the domain of a vertical line is just where does it cross the x-axis. It doesn't go left or right, so you can't have a true domain like these other ones. So it crosses the x-axis here at 2, and so you just say x equals 2, because anywhere this line goes, x is going to be 2. So it's 2 here on the axis, but also if we put a point here, that's 2, 2, and here's 2, 4, and down here would be -2, 2, and -2, 5. Or 2, -5. So you have this idea that the domain can only be that one place, that one x value of 2. However, the range is still negative infinity to positive infinity because the range is going to continue going up and down forever on those 2's. So you would still have this line at like negative, or at 2, -14, or 2, 112. So you're going to keep going up and down. So that's what that range is telling us. For the next line, we've got a horizontal line, which is the opposite of a vertical line. So just think about that this is going left forever with this left arrow. This one's going right forever with this right arrow. So that domain is going to be negative infinity to positive infinity. The range, however, it doesn't go up or down. The only place that it is available is at y equals -4. And it's always y equals -4. Right here's 3, -4. We've got 5, -4. -2, -4. -4, -4. So it's always going to be -4 no matter where it's at in space. But the domain says that it can go on to the left and the right forever in both directions. Now, number 11 starts with a different little concept here where we have some open and closed circles. So we're going to put down here that if we have a closed circle, that means that we're going to use brackets. So it's no different than what we've been doing. A closed circle means that number is included. We're able to touch that number. Everything's good. An open circle means that that number is not included. So it means you're getting really close to that number, but you're not actually going to touch it. You're not going to use it. It's not really included. So we're going to use parentheses again. Oh, I changed my S to like a crazy something. All right, so when you're doing ones like this, it is really helpful to go ahead and write down what the coordinates are of the points that they give you. So, for example, this closed circle in number 11 is -2, -1. The open circle is 5, -2. So we know that we have those points and we're going to use those numbers. Now, because those points are the left side and the right side, we're going to use -2 to 5 as our domain. And notice that the closed circle side with the -2 gets a bracket, but that open circle with the 5 gets the parenthesis. So you're literally going from -2 to 5, and you're stopping and you're not including 5. For the range, it's a little bit different on this one because it doesn't use both of these points. Now, this open circle is the bottom. You can see that's the lowest that it goes, but the highest that it goes is right here. So that's at +1. So our range is going to go from -2 to +1. But the -2, remember, is a closed or is an open circle. So it's going to get a parenthesis. Now the 1, we're actually touching the 1, and unless there's an open circle, you are to assume that it is included and give it a bracket. For this next one, we've got a left side and a right side. We also have a bottom and a top. So they gave us the 4 points that we needed. So this left side is -1, 2, 3, 4, and then up 2. The right side is 5, and we're not going up or down, so it stays on 0. The bottom is -3, -3. And the top up here is 0 because it doesn't go left or right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 0, 5. All right, so the domain is literally how far left did we go to how far right did we go. So we're using these X values from those left and right ones. And those are both closed circles, so they get brackets. And then for the range, it's how low did you go to how high did you go. So we're using the Y values of the tallest and the shortest. So we've got brackets for those because they're closed circles as well. And then these last two are rays. They have an end point and an arrow end. So we have to think about what each end is doing for our domain and range. So first of all, this it's like it starts here at this open circle and then it's going down to the left. So we are going to the left forever. So that means we're going towards negative infinity. Now, this point right here is 2, 0. It goes over 2, but it doesn't go up or down, so it's just 2, 0. So that means that to the right, it goes to 2, but it doesn't include 2 because it's an open circle. So think about, we're coming in from negative infinity, and then we go over to 2 and stop. Same thing for the range. We're going to go down forever. This is just going to keep going down forever. So negative infinity. And if you think about coming up from negative infinity, you go up to 0, which is also an open circle, so it's not included. So I had some people asking today, like, what's this mean that it's 0? But not included. So that would be like you're at 0.999999, but you can't ever truly get to 0. Or I'm sorry, that should have been negative 0.99999. And you can't ever get to 0. Or if you're coming in from the left to get to 2, you're actually doing 1.9999999, but you can't actually get to 2. Now, number 14 is almost exactly the opposite of number 13. Number 13 starts up here and then goes down to the left. Number 14 starts down here and goes up to the right. So when we do this problem, our starting point is down here, and it is negative 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4. And so that means that we're going to start at the left side, which is negative 2. It's closed, so we need a bracket. And then we're going to go up, but also to the right. Can you see how that's working? Like, if I follow this, it's going to go up, but it is going out to the right. I'm still going to the right as I go. So that's going to be positive infinity because it's going to the right. The range, you're looking at how low did I go? I went down to negative 4. And obviously this arrow is going up, so that's going to go to infinity. All right, so that is what we did today. On the worksheet, you need to do all of the first page. On the second page, you can mark out the first 2. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one, so the one in the very middle of the page. And then the middle one on the 3rd page, which is the scatter plot, you can mark that one out too, because we didn't really talk about scatter plots today. So try to get all that done for tomorrow.